Nexus Technology's premier socketed component interposers provide easy signal probing to an oscilloscope or a logic analyzer. We're going to walk through the steps showing how the interposers are installed onto a target, in this case an industry standard DDR3 DIMM. This is a standard DDR3 by 8 DIMM that we want to probe with an oscilloscope or a logic analyzer. This historically has not been an easy task, requiring a search for a via close to a memory component or probing near the edge fingers of the DIMM, which is not the optimal probe point. Nexus' innovative solution is a custom socket that is attached to the target and a component interposer that press fits into the target socket. The target socket is shown on the left and the interposer is on the right. The interposer has a component socket on it, so a memory component can easily be pressed into the socket. This socket is optional. Turning the interposer over, you can see the solder balls on the bottom. These solder balls are press fit onto the target socket. The following is for illustrative purposes only. The memory component should be removed and the target socket should be installed using standard BGA rework practices. Nexus has an optional service which provides the removal and reballing of a memory component and the attachment of the target socket. Once the memory component is removed, the DIMM will look like this. It is now ready to have the socket attached. The DIMM now has the target socket soldered to it. Once the target socket is properly installed, an interposer can easily be inserted or removed. The only tool required is a soldering station to tack solder the posts of the target socket to the interposer. All socket connections and adherents are press fit, requiring no soldering or tools. The oscilloscope component interposer presses onto the target socket. You can hear the click as the interposer is pressed in. The interposer installation is complete. With the interposer pressed into place, you now put the memory component onto the socket on the interposer. The memory component is installed by aligning it to the socket on the interposer. Press down and you will hear a click. The memory component installation is now complete. Notice that there are 4 posts on the target socket that extend through the plated holes on the interposer. To assure the retention of the interposer to the custom socket, you should solder the posts to the interposer. Only a minimal amount of solder is required. If you plan on removing the interposer for use on another target or replacing an oscilloscope interposer with a logic analyzer interposer, you should minimize the amount of solder used so it is easy to clear out. Now that the interposer is secured to the target socket, it is time to attach the oscilloscope probe tips. The interposer has many ground pads, so attaching probe tips is easy. It is now time to insert the instrumented DIMM into the target. In this case, we are installing the DIMM onto a standard PC motherboard. The scope probes are inserted into the probe tips and it's time to analyze signals. We are running MEM tests to generate significant random data on the DDR3 bus. You can quickly see that we are monitoring a strobe and an associated data bit. The data eyes look nice and open, but let's take a closer look. Zooming in while leaving the original signals at the top, we get a great view of the strobe and data eyes and can see that they look quite nice. There is also specific DDR oscilloscope software that can be used to easily make standard DDR measurements. Please contact us for more information on this advanced software tool. We will now walk through the steps showing how the logic analyzer interposer is installed to the same DDR3 DIMM target and to a logic analyzer. Once the target socket is installed, you can easily exchange one interposer type with another. In this example, we are removing an oscilloscope interposer and replacing it with a logic analyzer interposer. Once the oscilloscope interposer is removed, you can proceed to install the logic analyzer interposer. The logic analyzer interposer presses onto the target socket. You can hear the click as the interposer is pressed onto the socket. With the interposer pressed into place, you can now put the memory component onto the socket on the interposer. You align the memory component to the socket on the interposer, press down and you will hear a click. The memory component installation is now complete. It is time to attach the logic analyzer probes. The connection between the logic analyzer probes and the interposer is made with yellow HCD interconnects. A probe, HCD, and interposer are held together with retention hardware that consists of a top and bottom plate and 4 screws. The top plate is installed onto the probe. The probe is then turned over, exposing the pads. Then the yellow HCD is put in place. The HCD is key to help with orientation and installation. It is now placed onto the interposer with the bottom plate put in place. Four screws are used to secure the mounting plates. You can see the probe is now securely attached. The second probe is installed the same way. It is now time to insert the instrumented DIMM into the target. In this case, we are installing the DIMM onto a standard PC motherboard. As you can see, the probes are also attached to the logic analyzer. We are running memtest to generate significant data on the DDR3 bus. The logic analyzer interposer comes with all the software necessary to configure and automatically tune the logic analyzer. The setup and tuning of the logic analyzer is covered in a separate video. Please remember to visit our website at nexustechnology.com for our online configuration wizard. It will guide you through the options for the memory component interposer products and present the part number, a summary of the configured component interposer, and also a link to the datasheet for reference.